Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show, live and on demand here on BlazeTV, radio and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. Over there is Aaron McIntyre. Let us know who you are by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Parler. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter and Getter. And again, the last name is DEACE. If you like clips of the show that you can watch later on for free, that are also free of censorship, you can get them over at rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. Again, that's rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. We've got a jam-packed Wednesday in store for you. Buy, sell, or hold begins here at the bottom of the hour. Also, the weekly Prophet of Woe and Lamentation will be joining us here next hour. We'll get Aaron's rundown here in a matter of moments, but I have to begin with a big announcement. Okay. So we have been telling the audience about our new partners here on the program, Taiga Coolers, for a while now, right? Try that again. Absolutely. Your mic on. There we go. Okay. So this is a brand new cooler company. They do phenomenal work. You can get a basic, high-end, run-of-the-mill cooler if you want. But if you want something that is detailed and distinct for you, they can do that too, right? And they did that for the three of us. And I mean, these things are really, really nice. You can go to taigacoolers.com right now, TAIGA, taigacoolers.com right now. Enter the promo code Steve at checkout. Get a 10% off discount. Everything's American made. I mean, they share your values. Just a really cool product. And they're going to prove that to you here in a moment. So for certain reasons, we could not promote the original customized coolers that they had made for us for certain licensing reasons, right? We couldn't promote those, right?
Right.
Okay. But they really wanted to show off their handiwork to the audience. And based on the coolers they made for the three of us, if I were them, I'd be showing that.
Yeah, I wanted to show off their handiwork too.
Yeah, so when you guys did the big first house move-in a couple of weeks ago, you had the your Taiga cooler out there, right? Okay. So they really wanted to come up with something that we could show off to the audience. And they have. They have made me a second customized cooler. But it's really just the lid that you really want to see. Are you guys ready for this? I have it right here. Okay. This is the customized lid that they made for me. Can you get that on camera there, Aaron? There it is. Lindsay Graham getting to the bottom of it.
The scale.
Yes, I know. I know. Which I won't even attempt to describe in words. I'll just let it speak for itself. Okay? Now, they didn't tell me whether or not you can get this, but I'd be asking if it was me, right? If you're a patriot like in the state of South Carolina and you are ashamed, just as ashamed of the Republican electorate in that state for claiming to be some deep red state but sickening the country, sickening the country with this effeminate sellout for the last 3 decades, and you want to make a protest, you should call and request this cooler lid. Now you guys are a little jealous, aren't you?
This is called leaning into a brand. That's
I mean, that is some good stuff right there, all right? So, did it live up to expectations? I've had this thing hidden for about a week until the next Taiga Coolers spot came up. You guys had no idea what was coming. Did it live up to the hype?
I did. It was on an email from the sales staff. I could not see it. I'm sorry. I tried.
It would have been better if you told me you peeked because you couldn't resist, but okay, we'll go with that excuse. But you had no idea this was coming, Todd.
No, it's fitting that it's on a Wednesday because I have a feeling maybe our advertisers are going to start doing what our Wednesday buy-sell holders have done to Aaron. They keep upping the ante of greatness. I mean, that's something.
Taiga Coolers, TAIGA, taigacoolers.com. Use the promo code Steve to get 10% off. And with that, we now go to Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by 10% for the big guy. The UK Daily Mail has an exclusive story about financial records indicating Joe Biden had at one point $5.2 million in unexplained income. Now, 10% for the big guy from one of Hunter Biden's emails always made sense, but now there's more, at least prima facie evidence to support it. The Daily Mail report also says the elder Biden agreed to pay his son's legal fees for his deal with a Chinese-controlled company, contradicting the Biden's insistence Joe had nothing to do with Hunter's overseas business dealings. Speaking of Biden, he's told lawmakers he's considering different options to forgive most or all student loan debt. If he does so, that would affect around 43 million borrowers and around $1.3 trillion of student debt. Kamala Harris has tested positive for COVID. In another 15 days to slow the spread update, this apparently happened at a Costco quite recently.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness!
For those of you listening, this is an individual in a mask berating and threatening with pepper spray a couple of Costco employees for not wearing masks or getting too close.
You are unmasked. Is that pepper spray? Yes.
Okay. Sir, I need you to put that away. We're in a public place right now.
Yeah, you stay away.
I'm going to stay away.
Thank you.
You can't be
That's all I was
threatening
asking
people
of
here
this
with
asshole.
pepper spray, okay? Do you
I
understand
can't.
that?
No,
You
you're not a
cannot
lawyer.
threaten people in here with pepper
You're not a
spray.
cop. You're not a lawyer.
When one of the employees threatened to call the police, the man just shuffled off. For the first time in almost 2 years, the CDC has released a seroprevalence survey for COVID. This is a study of infection-induced antibodies, basically how many people in a given population have had COVID. This data is through February of this year. Almost every state is at 50% or above, with several states well above 60%. Iowa, according to the CDC, has the largest population of those who have had and beaten COVID. Vermont has the lowest number at just below 30%. Debbie Burks has crawled out of her spider hole to say some stuff.
That is totally crazy. I am super chill all the time.
Whoops, wrong clip.
There's a part in the book where you talk about your concern that men at the White House might see you as hysterical or overreacting just because you were often the only woman in the room.
People say to me, you're being too direct, you're being too pushy. They'll often use the B word. But remember, I've worked on pandemics where people's lives are at stake. And so I feel like if you have to say things over and over again and more forcefully each time and really say we've got to do this differently because this is what still is happening, that is not being the B word.
In other news, YouTuber Tim Pool purchased a billboard in Times Square in New York City to send a message to the Washington Post. For those of you listening, the digital billboard spells out the words, "Hey WAPO, democracy dies in darkness. That's why we're shining a light on you. Taylor Lorenz doxed libs of TikTok." By the way, libs of TikTok just surpassed 1 million followers on Twitter yesterday. Also in New York, the pro-life play O Gosnell has been shut down by Theater Row in New York City for so-called inappropriate content. Harvard has canceled a planned speech by feminist, poet, and philosopher Devin Buckley because she believes men should not be housed in the same prisons as women. Employees at Amazon took part in a therapy session for trauma caused by the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh and his #1 best-selling children's book, Johnny the Walrus. Johnny the Walrus is a book about self-acceptance and has overt themes affirming the correct views on God-given sexuality. That apparently was too much for Amazon employees.
His publishing company and other people like him are taking advantage of Amazon and how the Amazon algorithms work to promote their particular brand of hate and harm on the community.
Final thing we're going to show is a 30-second clip
Brace yourself.
of Matt Walsh, and I want you to brace yourselves, of Matt Walsh reading his book.
Amazon has since moved the children's book into the politics section. And finally, an update from inside Twitter jail with the Babylon Bee.
We got thrown in here for a pretty terrible crime. We gave Rachel Levine our Man of the Year award. We were just trying to honor such a great man. Pretty heinous, right? But we're making do. You know, we've even been able to continue publishing articles with this laptop that someone left here in Twitter jail. As you can see, my time in the big house has really hardened me. I've got tattoos now. I got this teardrop for owning a lib. I got a skull on my neck, and they even made me get the Always Maxi Pads logo on my arm. I went ahead and made this shiv out of a Carmen CD. But don't worry, I've got a plan to get out. I'm digging a tunnel behind this poster. As soon as I finish it, I'll be as free as the Taliban, Vladimir Putin, Kathy Griffin, the Chinese government, and all the other wonderful people who are still out on Twitter.
And that's what happened while we were away.
There are numerous great references in that clip, and Trump in the background silently is perfect. But no reference is better than making a shiv out of a Carmen CD, and there's literally 2% of this audience that understands that reference, and they are all belly laughing right now. That's a Dennis Miller level poll right there by the Babylon Bee. A shiv out of a Carmen CD. You have no idea who that is, do you?
Carmen?
Yeah.
I don't think I do.
No. And do you know why you don't know who that is?
No, I don't.
What's your pat answer when these
Catholic.
Because I'm Catholic.
Okay.
But it's not even just that. Like it's a particular subset. It's not even just the nuance of evangelical subculture. We're talking a subset of a subset of a subset, man. We're talking music videos on TBN kind of stuff, okay? That's what we're talking about, with the shirt open like a Neil Diamond kind of figure. You know what I'm talking about, Aaron. You got this. As a homeschool kid, yeah. Yeah. That's what we're talking. The contemporary Christian Neil Diamond, man. Carmen. Yeah.
So that was kind of a Babylon Bee throwback when they they used to really
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was a classy poll right there by the Babylon Bee. Aaron's montage is brought to you, by the way, by our friends over at Bonner Private Wines, one of Todd's favorite partners that we have here on the show. Some of the best wines in the world, literally, that are grown at about 9,000 feet deep in the Andes Mountains on, vineyards that look like, well, what vineyards used to look like before they became corporate farms and loaded up your wines that you buy at the stores with additives. This is really good stuff. The real stuff. Some of the best foreign imported wine you'll get in the world, but you can get it at half off the retail price and half off the shipping too. Double the savings, and take Todd's word for it. I mean, Aaron and I have tried them and like them too, but Todd will give you a very enthusiastic endorsement. It is worth your wine tasting investment when you go to bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve. That's all you'll need to do to take advantage of this special offer at bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve. Let's get to the montage because, wow, what a montage it was. You know what? I'm going to try to get through. I'm going to do like a bullet point, I think, on every single one of these, other than the Babylon Bee, because I already covered that one. Okay, so let's take these in order. 10% for the big guy was $5.2 million, correct?
That's what it's sounding like.
Yeah, which means, therefore, Hunter was raking in $50 million. Just in that one Tony Bobolinsky initiative, because that's where this came out of, right? Those emails with Bobolinsky, the 10% from the big guy, if I remember right. Okay, so that was just one of these fronts, just one of them. If Dementia Joe's cut, it's convenient having dementia. You can legitimately make a case. I don't have any idea what he's talking about because you don't know what the bleep your name is on a given day, right? But if you do the math, if his cut was 5.2 mil, that means in this one revenue stream, just this one, Hunter Biden was reaping in $50 million. That'll buy a lot of crack, yo. Next, Kamala Harris, who has now been given special access to a drug called Paxlovid that is not available to the wide general public right now unless you are a serious COVID case. But don't worry, the drug doesn't work anyway. Okay, the drug doesn't work. Kamala Harris being given special access to a drug that does not work to treat her asymptomatic COVID, which she acquired after being routinely jabbed and double masked. If that does not sum up, gentlemen, the entirety of this 25-month scandemic, you know what? I'm a writer, I'm a broadcaster, storyteller for a living. I can't craft a better summation or narrative summing up this entire last 25 months. than that.
Can I also add that this is the same day that the seroprevalence survey, this went down on the same day that the seroprevalence survey came out. Something I didn't put in the montage was the percentage of kids. It wasn't over like
75% of children.
75% of children.
Yeah. So the last time we have received seroprevalence data from the CDC that I'm aware of, and since the list of people that have done more research on this than me is really small, chances are it was the last time we got public data on this. I mean, after all, why would we need to know who's been infected during a pandemic? Why would we need to know? In fact, I can't think of, let me see, have you rolled out a product recently to push back on said pandemic in order to help get to herd immunity? So wouldn't you need to know who already has herd immunity? Wouldn't you already need to know this, right? Was I not yelling and screaming this at this time last year? Where are the antibody studies? Why are we, this is before we even looked at long-term side effects. We were questioning the methodology. I was just simply asking, if this is our path back to normalcy, don't we already need to know who has had the thing and recovered? Because I was, silly me, at this time last year, I still thought some semblance of actual sciencing was occurring here, which, after writing a best-selling book pointing out no sciencing was occurring, I should have figured out, but alas, even total depravity applies to me too. I have this sinful strain in me that just defaults to logic must at some point still reign, right? I gave that up about August of last year, and it's just been full-time crazy voices in my head. And I prayed about it, and I feel real good about where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm basically Alex Jones with Bible verses, but I'm also batting pretty much a damn 1,000, okay? So what are the benign and innocent reasons why we would go nearly 2 full years? Because the last time they gave us seroprevalence data, they did a Friday news dump on July 4th weekend in 2020. And it was data they had collected in April and May. July 4th weekend, Friday news dump, 2020 was the last time we received mass public antibody or seroprevalence data from the CDC to see who has been infected or not. And now they give it to us, when in reality, we really don't need it. Do you know what we really need? We really need the data of who's been jabbed, because we need to go warn all those people, especially if they got the 3rd shot, you're going to be getting COVID again, and maybe worse than you got it before if you did already. That's really the data we should be releasing. How many people got COVID? Because they're about the only people nowadays getting COVID in the West are the people who got jabbed, like the vice president, okay? So, but the data does show 75% of children have already gotten and recovered from COVID. So then what is the benign and innocent reason why there would continue to be a push for putting a jab that its own manufacturer, Pfizer, published in The Lancet on April the 22nd. When was April the 22nd? Last week, published in The Lancet last week in a study that it funded. Pfizer funded the study, and it admitted, because it's an ad for selling more boosters, it admitted efficacy wanes for even serious infection after just a few months with a 3rd dose. It admitted this in writing. It's their own study. They funded it themselves. I posted it on all my social media accounts earlier this week. So if 75% of the kids who were neither victims nor vectors of or vectors for the virus in the first place, if 75% of them have already been infected and recovered, why are we pushing to give them a jab that will not work and then has an escalating risk profile? What is the benign and innocent explanation for that? Go.
I think we should ask the guy macing people at Walmart, because I'm sure he has the answer, Steve.
We should ask Debbie Birx why sexism is affecting these numbers.
Indeed. Let's go next to guy pepper spraying at Costco. Step to me, please. Please. I have dreams at night about people like you. Please, I look forward to humiliating you. I live in West Des Moines. I'm at the Costco a couple times a month. Please, come to me. I've been wanting this for like 2 years. Don't think all that bile and frustration that I was complaining about a year ago, do not think that went away. Oh, no. No, it didn't. It continues to pile up, and it wants to come out so very badly. I invite you, please, fulfill this fetish, this fantasy for me. I invite you to give me the opportunity to let it out. Please, please, please. Come to me.
It'd be so awesome if you segued into an advertisement right now.
Let's, Debbie Burks. Prison or execution for crimes against humanity. Nuremberg-like trials with Nuremberg-like sentences. That's all I have. I don't have anything else.
You'd be right to pull. She pulled the Carly Fiorina right here. She knows she's in trouble.
Yeah, she went full vagina.
Yes,
correct.
she did.
Yeah. That's the last defense of a scoundrel when they're cornered, is to play the identity politic card. Because, of course, a woman who 40 years ago, before we even knew what a glass ceiling was already shattering them to reach the elite sectors of public health policy institutions, of course, can only be a victim of sexism, can only be. Yes, of course. Okay.
You've been ensconced there forever.
Back when most women were still at home with their children, you were climbing the ladder of NIH and NIAID. But yes, of course, you are clearly a victim of the male patriarchal industrial complex. Indeed. In fact, the country would have been far better off if there was a little bit more male patriarchal industrial complex in that White House coronavirus task force. But instead, you had more balls than Vice President Pence, which wouldn't take much, a half. Next, Tim Pool, well done with the troll there in Times Square. And you know what? Hey, the Steve Deace Show taketh away, and the Steve Deace Show giveth. Tim made a special point of giving credit to Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring for helping him pull that off. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to be critical of Jeremy's nonsensical thoughts on punishing woke Disney, we should absolutely give him credit for helping Tim Pool facilitate that. Fair?
Oh, more than fair.
So I definitely wanted to make note of that here on the program.
And also it happens to work in your favor, because by giving him credit in this, it also indicts him in the thing we criticized him about.
Well, I didn't do it for that reason, but I certainly won't turn that one away. Okay. I didn't even know there was a play called Oh Gosnell, but I freaking loved the idea. And props to you for having to be shut down, because it clearly means that you were doing a hell of a job, pun intended, telling that demonic story. So, when you can't beat them, ban them. So props to you for that.
This is being shut down as we are debating in this country killing live infants.
Yes. Oh, I got to double back. They were always going to cancel student loan debt. I've been telling you that for 2 years. That was always going to get canceled. He's underwater right now with recent college graduates. They need to do something. They can't even do another lockdown to institute ballot harvesting, because they wouldn't get the minions of 22-year-old morons voting for him they got the last time, because they're underwater with that group. All right? They're underwater with every group other than white people our age, Todd, and older, who make six figures, basically. They're underwater with everybody else. Okay? With everybody else, they're under.
This is his version of the full vagina.
Yes.
He's just, hey, kids, I'm just a hip dude.
And so this was always going to happen. It was always going to happen once he won the presidency. It was just a matter of when. So it is what it is. I am still mystified that Greg Gutfeld said last week that this is the issue he would go to war over. I mean, I can completely understand being irritated by paying off a whole bunch of debt for people who, in many cases, can probably afford to pay said debt, right? Dude, Greg, yo, bro, nothing else happened in the last 25 months. Like, can you guys think of, I don't know, 27 other things maybe that might have caused you to, as Greg put it, get off the couch and go to war? No? This is the one?
You missed an opportunity there. How about 666 other things?
Oh, you're right. I did miss an opportunity. Thank you for that for correction, my friend. That was well done, for sure. Speaking of 666.
There we go.
Lord Nefarious, intertwining and twisting our culture so much into two hellscape, demonic, fallacious canards like feminism and gender dysphoria, mental illness as ideology. to the point that he now pits the two of them against one another and does it at our most renowned center of higher learning, Harvard. Dude, hate the game, man, not the player. Oh, wait, was that a white power symbol? My bad. Hate the game, not the player. I mean, respect your enemy, even if it is the enemy. Understand that the enemy has been around for a long time because he is pretty good at this. He's pretty good at playing us, and we fall for the same greatest hits album every single generation. I mean, but that's a moment. I mean, don't get me wrong. I look forward to just annihilating all of you in the arena of ideas, but competitor to competitor, general to general, like the analogy I've drawn before, it's the respect Patton had for Rommel. Don't get me wrong. I am here to destroy you.
Richard the Lionheart and Saladin and the Crusades.
Yeah,
yes,
very good.
sure.
That's another great analogy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm here to wipe you off the face of the third rock from the sun, and I fully intend to do so. Okay, but in the midst of that, it is wise to respect your enemy. Okay, and that's a hell of a play, man. That's a hell of a play, literally. And then finally, Amazon employee therapy sessions.
Emotional damage.
That's my commentary. That's it. That's the commentary.
What was he saying?
Amazon,
Brace yourself.
Yeah, Amazon employee therapy sessions. That's all I have. Gentlemen, your turn.
I love that when he's the hush tones. I mean, he was doing the Alec Baldwin sweaty balls thing. He's like, brace yourself. It's coming. It's coming now. I know.
Have you ever noticed? And they always sound like that, and they always look like that.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed that?
And they're just playing him live, reading his book to kids. Now, again, the context, it's the mirror image. He's just reading his book to kids while we are debating the grooming that is going on in this country. And look what they're doing to kids. And that is freedom to them. That is liberty. That is morality. But Matt Walsh's book is about to tear out the souls of everybody about to see this. And it's adults they're talking about. This is why, be prepared for COVID and the lockdowns. It unleashed that man crazy in the mask, but that guy's everywhere on multiple issues. Do not return to normal. Be prepared for what is to come. You must be ready to fight.
It's why I said COVID was not an outlier. It was a harvest.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what my favorite story in the montage today was, but if you put a gun to my head, it was probably the Amazon thing. This is another reminder that they don't intend to share a country with us because in their minds, we don't share a country with them already. They live in an alternative reality. It is a completely upside down alternative reality. And the voices that you heard in that therapy session for the Amazon employees, those are the ones who are deepest into it.
Yes.
And they happen to reside in a lot of the sectors of power and control over culture and big business, which is why it seems like they are much larger in number than they actually are.
Almost like they've been strategically placed there, perhaps.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Almost as if that's reality. So, yeah, not quite as large a number as we thought, but still way too many of them.
I just got to speak to the dudes, man. Losing your culture to Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun, Julius Caesar, no shame in Alexander the Great, no shame in that. Losing your culture to those dweebs, dude, that's kind of on you. Guys, if the first thing you notice when you look at a photo of yourself is that receding hairline or bald spot, Keeps can help you to change that. All right. Did you know 2 out of 3 guys experience hair loss before they're even 35? Or you could be Brian Stelter at CNN experiencing it before you're 25. Okay. And you don't really want to gamble with your hair. Hair loss can be tough. And you don't want to do that Dr. Jerry Buss LA Laker owner comb over from Winning Time. You don't want to do that. That's a chore every morning, okay? Instead, just go to our friends over at Keeps, clinically proven, FDA-approved hair loss treatments, all available online, personalized to you, direct to physician communication, customized for you, everything discreet, convenient as can be. They save you money by giving you the generic versions of these treatments in order to save money constantly, but then they help you save money even more so when you first get started with half off your first order when you go to keeps.com/grow. That's KEEPS for keeps.com/grow. One more thing I meant to say last segment, I forgot to, so I want to say it here. I have to give mad props to Matt Walsh, man. In the last year or so, who in our industry and / movement do you think? Can you come up with somebody who's taken more scalps and caused more enemy tears in the last year or so than Matt has on several different fronts and it's funny on multiple fronts. It's funny if you know Matt. He has, for all this creativity and snarkiness, he actually has a very dry personality in person, all right? And so he has figured out a way to complement that because it almost seems more effective. He does the video that came out yesterday where he's reading the book. That's not an act. His personality, God bless him, really is that dry. And so the snark, I think, out of such a plain, spoken, logic-based vessel, I think is even more devastating. He deserves a lot of credit on multiple fronts. I just wanted to state that for the record.
Oh, for sure. And I can't help it, but it brings me back to what you said earlier. He works with Jeremy Boring, and he does this stuff, and he goes full groomer when he does this.
Yeah.
And so, again, it makes the criticism within his own business odd because you are so right, pound for pound, his level of efficacy, not just within the white paper realm, right, but he produces results. Yes. He goes on the Dr. Phil thing.
We're not just drawing clicks for the sake of clicks.
No.
He's not taking prisoners, man. I mean, there's body bags behind him. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to it. Buy, sell, or hold. And this is one of our favorite segments each week because it's not only fun, but you guys make it fun. You guys are often the ones that provide the submissions via Aaron that Todd, you and I will decide, are we going to buy it? Are we going to sell it? Once per episode, you are permitted to hold. But if you use it for any reason other than, holy bleep, how did Aaron let that on the air? It's so bad, so lame. Then you have to present this Tyga Coolers ad to Lindsay Graham at his favorite Friday night haunt on location. No, I wasn't going to give you the chance to show up at some kind of town hall and do it. No, you've got to meet Lindsay where he's truly at, brother. Truly at.
Had me for a second.
On location. Was that a kind of a tease?
It was a tease.
It was. Aaron, go ahead.
All right, we will begin with Mike, who says, with negative integers of self-awareness, the left will go after social media, Twitter, about transparency and will ultimately out other platform biases. And while we're just, giving other people credit on our show here today, let's just do it again. Christine Pushaw, who is one of the chief flacks for Ron DeSantis, she's the first person I've seen anyway, coined the phrase that it's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. And I think that is a brilliant summation of this phenomenon. We still like to expose liberal hypocrisy. Why? Because you guys click on all those headlines. Like anything short of Trump is great, bought us some chocolate cake, all right? Anything short of that that headline you guys will all click on en masse. The other headline y'all will click on en masse is pointing out obvious liberal hypocrisy. Everybody loves that, click. But it's not hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. And that's why the correct definition of this is what we have here from Mike. It's a lack of self-awareness. It's when you live in such a bubble unto yourself. You have lacked so much exposure to any other viewpoints or even being forced to consider them that you just don't have to hold yourself accountable to those standards on any level. It's a form, frankly, of sociopathic behavior.
Really. It's a subclinical mild form of sociopathic behavior. I'm just better than you.
Oh, I can't add to that. And it's important to understand, because if all you have is laugh at punchlines, they will get over on you. They are all the time. Again, it's happening right in our own backyard right here in Iowa. There's a major school district in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa area, our second largest city, that has just gone full open up the bathrooms to everybody. And it's because we, see, it's funny. Meanwhile, they do things like that.
Yes. They don't mind being mocked for hypocrisy.
No.
That's not the same, by the way, as Steve, aren't you the show that talks about scorn and ridicule? That's not scorn and ridicule. They don't care about being mocked for their hypocrisy. All right? The scorn and the ridicule comes not on the hypocrisy, but the insanity. Go after it on the merits. That's the other thing we have a tendency to do on this side, is to find the most low-lying fruit, the most vapid, banal talking point, glom onto it, and just run that into the ground. No. Aim for the heart. Go right at the heart of the matter. All right, that's where the scorn and ridicule them on the merits of their arguments, not on the tertiary aspects of their personal sinful manifestation.
If you're going after, another way of saying that, if you're going after Jerry Behar all the time and not after your school board,
correct,
you're totally missing the point.
That's correct. Yeah.
Next up, we'll go to Just Saying, who has a top 10 best baseball pitchers of the modern-ish era.
So we need to define that. What is the modern-ish era?
So
let me see the list real quick, and I could probably.
I don't know who. Okay,
so we're gonna. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we're gonna say 1980. Fair.
Nolan Ryan, you got to go back.
He was dominant well into the 90s, but he was dominant throughout the 80s. We'll say 1980. Okay. In 80 he helped lead the Astros to the NLCS. All right, they were one game away from getting to the World Series.
Okay.
So we'll say since 1980. Fair.
Okay.
All right, since 1980. All right.
All right, we'll start with number 10, Orel Hershiser.
Well, when I look at this list, everybody is or will be in the Hall of Fame. Is he a Hall of Famer? I can't remember. Yeah, the one great year where he broke the Drysdale record for scoreless innings, the scoreless inning streak in '88. But I don't see him necessarily as a Hall of Famer, unless he made it and I missed it.
I don't put him. I mean, I think top 10. I don't know.
Is he there? I don't see Tom Glavine on that list. Would you put Glavine's a Hall of Famer? Wouldn't you put Glavine on that list? John Smoltz on that list? Mariano Rivera on that list? Well, I'd put them all actually ahead of Orel Hershiser, so I'll sell. Yep.
Number 9, Trevor Hoffman.
You're talking about the all-time saves leader when he retired? I'm okay with it, but then Mariano's not on that list, is he? Is Rivera on the list?
No.
I mean, I could make an argument that Rivera is the most dominant pitcher of the era other than, say, Randy Johnson, period. So I'm fine with Hoffman being on the list, but you can't put him on the list and no Rivera. Mariano has to be on the list.
I'm selling.
Okay, I'm going to sell then too. If there's no Mariano, you cannot have Trevor Hoffman.
Also, he was on the Brewers for a while. I like him. I think he's a good dude. But he ultimately ended up getting basically longevity. I mean, he was not as dominant for as long as Mariano Rivera. When he was dominant, he was amazing. But
Mariano Rivera was a force of nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 8, Justin Verlander.
I certainly think he belongs on the list. He'll be a Hall of Famer. I'm okay with it. Yeah. Basically, he'll have Jack Morris's resume, but 3,000 strikeouts for the automatic HOF qualifier.
Okay.
Fair comparison?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, this is Tiger stuff. I'm trying to not let his knowledge of the Astros thing get in my way here, because
I'm very concerned that Mariano Rivera is not on the list, or Smoltz or Glavine for that matter.
I'm going
at least one of the two.
I'm going to sell, but I don't. It's close. I'm going to sell.
Number 7, Pedro Martinez.
Buy. That's an automatic.
Yes.
That's a buy. Yes.
Number 6, Greg Maddux.
Automatic buy. If anything, he might be too low.
Number 5, Curt Schilling.
Buy.
Automatic buy. Yep. Absolutely. Maybe the greatest postseason pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball.
Number 4, Randy Johnson.
Buy.
If anything, he should be number 1. He's too low on the list. I'll buy, and Kurt will tell you. because he pitched in an era against all of these guys. Kurt will tell you, just take it from somebody who knows him. If Randy Johnson was the best pitcher he ever saw. I think Randy Johnson should probably be number 1, but I'll buy.
Number 3, Roger Clemens.
Sell,
because we don't know what's Memorex and what's real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 2, Clayton Kershaw.
Buy.
Yeah.
Number 1, Nolan Ryan.
Buy. I just don't think you can have Clayton Kershaw ahead of Randy Johnson. I mean, if you were ranking all-time left-handers, no one would rank Clayton Kershaw ahead of Randy Johnson. You'd be talking about ranking Randy Johnson with like Sandy Koufax guys. So you can't. That's bad. You got to flip them probably. But overall, the list isn't too bad. It's an okay list.
Like I don't know Mariano and no Eckersley, but Trevor Hoffman.
Eckersley's another one.
The
reason I didn't name him is Smoltz did the same transition, but had even better numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about a guy that was a 15-game winning starter and then became at that time for a time kind of the proto Mariano Rivera. He was so dominant. I mean, we almost created the whip stat because of what Eckersley was doing, like striking out 120 guys and walking 10 coming out of the bullpen for the A's, which is why when Kirk Gibson hit that home run against him in that 88 series, it was so striking because people weren't even getting the balls out of the infield against Dennis Eckersley that year.
Moving on, we'll go to Chris Goebel, who says, we'll eventually look back on the last 2 to 6 years with gratitude as it finally shocked common sense Americans awake and into action. Examples: Twitter, school boards, anti-abortion, state laws, rise in homeschooling, churches being sifted, Disney, Netflix stocks, things like that.
I will sell only hope, yes, but there's a fait accompli feel to this just from my interpretation. And again, you got to sustain this. It's our tendency to drift into malaise and comfort in this country is just a drug as strong as crack. And I need to see proof of concept. We just showed you the dude in the mask pushing people in stores. Okay, we got so ways to go.
Well, I agree with your sentiment, and I think it's the most valid reason to sell. I'm going to buy because this is the arc of human history. I mean, you see this in the Old Testament. Okay, I mean, from bondage to restoration, redemption, to disobedience, back into slavery, into bondage, to right. This is the pattern. This is the pattern of human history. I mean, the founding fathers, many of those 56 signers were wealthy men of means. It wasn't, we act as if they were some super generation. There are founding fathers in hell right now who did not acquire and accept the proper atonement for their sins, okay? They're sinners too. Their grievances with the British Crown went on for years. And they didn't finally get to the point of risking their lives, fortunes, and sacred honors, which would be their lands, their plantations, their farms, their communities, their families, their sons, until there were no other options for their redresses to be heard. And the Crown had gotten to the point of making them quarter their soldiers that were essentially turning them into hostages in their own homes. That's what it took to get them to push back and fight. This is not unique. It's not unique in human history. It's not. Literally 10 minutes in the desert after you just watched God part a large body of water, they turned to Moses and said, "Where's the food? Where's all the water? What are we doing out here? You brought us out here to die." One of the saddest stories in the Bible is the sons of Korah in the book of Numbers. Constantly ranting, complaining, whining. God has finally had it, tells Moses, "Assemble all the tribes. Next morning, we're going to make it very clear that I anointed you as my servant, and everyone else needs to shut their hole and know their role." All the 12 tribes are assembled the next morning. What happens? God opens the earth and swallows this entire clan to wipe them and their whiny beta-ness off the face of the earth. Not like one chapter later, some old coot, blue hair, rolls up on Moses the next morning and says, "But that was really unfair what you guys did to God's people yesterday." That's right there in the book. This is not unique. It is not unique that we have to be cattle prodded to action. It is not unique. So I will buy.
That was a great answer.
Thank you.
One more quickly. John Endicott says Elon Musk bought Twitter and is promoting free speech on the site to gather almost unlimited data for his Neuralink and artificial intelligence programs.
That's, first of all, he could probably get that data without buying Twitter, without having to purchase. He could get that data by just cozying up even more with the folks over there in Belgium and at Brussels and the WEF crowd and say, I'm your Huckleberry. They just share that to him for free. It wouldn't cost him $43 billion to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do love that. By the way, though, I do love the alertness and the suspicion. You have achieved, brother. I don't agree with your conclusion, but I'm going to buy this because I think you've achieved the right level of instant suspicion of everything for the times in which we live.
I have the exact same answer. And this is the second person I've talked about. Hey, remember who this guy is. He believes in some of this mind tech melding kind of stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Trust but verify with this guy in all things, like everybody else.
I think that's it for this hour or segment.
Did we get a good response again like we did last week? I mean, last week was kind of historic.
250, I think, submissions on Twitter alone this week.
Wow.
So
this thing's kind of blowing up on us. So we will have bonus buy, seller, hold in the overtime again.
We will. Yep.
All right. So we'll see if we can keep that little Wednesday tradition going. We'll have bonus buy, seller, hold in the overtime for Blaze TV subscribers later today at blazetv.com/Deace, which is also where you can go to become a Blaze TV subscriber at a discount. blazetv.com/Deace. We'll come back. Hour 2 is next. We'll continue some more buy, seller, hold right here, right then. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Aaron McIntyre, Todd Erzin, and all of you. You can email the show, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, Parler, and Gab. Follow me on Twitter and Getter at Steve Deace Show. Get clips of the show over on rumble.com/Steve Deace Show as well. Don't forget, last name, DEACE. And for those of you that are in the podcast realm, thank you so very much. Leave us, please, if you have yet to do so, a 5-star review, if you like the show, of course. And then hit the subscribe or follow button. And thanks to all of you that have done each and every one of those things in support of the program. Those are all, each of them, very much appreciated. This part of the show brought to you by Omega XL, which I promise if you try, you will learn to appreciate too, because it's a part of my daily regimen. I take it with me wherever I go. Why? Because as we get older, even the more active we are. And by the way, man, that Peloton Foo Fighters ride I did yesterday, that about broke me.
Still talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, that ride was a motherless goat. The chick that hosted that ride, her last name is Lovewell. No, you don't. That's some false advertising. Whoever came up with that family name was a liar. Afterwards, I thought she owed me an apology. Okay. Thankfully, though, there is Omega XL. That's part of my post-workout recovery because there's about 300 some odd places from the neck to our feet called joints, which are critical for activity and mobility, but can also be hubs as we get older for inflammation. And that's what's probably causing your chronic pain, that soreness and achiness that lingers and just won't go away. Well, now you've got Omega XL backed by 3 decades of clinical research and about 3 years going on now of me using it daily. If you want to try it today, buy one, get one free when you go to omegaxl.com/Steve. Or you can call them at 800-844-4888. All right, let's get to part 2 of Buy, Sell, or Hold. Here's Aaron.
We will go next to Brutus Maximus, who says the day it was announced Elon Musk acquired Twitter was the most satisfying day on Twitter since the day after the 2016 election.
I can buy that. Yeah, I'll buy that for sure.
Yeah, no reason to argue with it.
Yep, I'll buy that for sure.
Next, we go to Robert Horn. After the Parental Rights Act and the stripping of Disney's special tax laws, Florida has less freedom than it did 30 days ago.
So this is, again, I had a conversation, great catching up last night. Soccer dad, he's a Democrat. We talked about all kinds of fun stuff, but we did talk about this too. Again, you're talking about groomers. They're hunting your children. It is not anti-freedom to hunt the people who are hunting your children. Full stop.
This always gets me as well. Were the pilgrims coming here because they wanted freedom to practice their faith in the way that they saw fit, or freedom from tyranny? Both.
Both, yeah. Yes. I was going to say yes. Yeah. First of all, this guy's emailed me in the past as a Democrat listener in the audience. So I recognize the name. I think I have it right. I mean, we get so many, but I think I have this one right. If I am right, you should take the W, bro. Take yes for an answer. You finally got people like us to wake up and admit corporations really can't do whatever they want. If this was any other context other than indoctrinating children into a moral value system that at the very least you're comfortable with, if not completely, you're comfortable with enabling by how you vote, if not completely full-throated, pun intended, endorsement thereof, in any other context, would Democrats be sending us buy, sell, or hold propositions like this? No. So you should take yes for an answer. You win. You guys won an argument against us. We admit you're right. You guys were right all along. Corporations can't do whatever they want. There are certain areas where if they go too far, then the duly elected government that is a representative, a proxy of the people, absolutely should spank them for polluting the environment of the people of the sovereign people of a community or a state or a country, right? I mean, haven't they been making that argument our entire lives?
I don't know if you
take yes for an answer. You won. You're right.
Intentionally or not, but polluting the environment. A big Exxon isn't allowed to pour oil into the Gulf of Mexico, right?
So I don't know why you're allowed just to openly pour sludge into our kids' brains. And all we're talking about here is we're not going to give you extra favors. If you can find a market for said sludge totally and completely on your own, I would have gone even further, frankly, into that realm, okay? But we're not even talking about that. We're talking about taking away extra benefits. Extra benefits. Are you guys so far gone over there, Rob?
Yes.
Can I call you that? Nice. Are you guys so far gone over there that now we're the ones that have to come to you and say, taking corporatist goodies away from multinational, multi-billion-dollar conglomerates actually adds to the freedom of voters. I thought you folks were the ones that made these arguments for years. Take the W. This is like arguing. This is like a Ron Pauler emailing me and say, "What do you mean you don't want to go to war in Ukraine? Take the win." I'm not for preemptive war. I'm not for nation building any longer. I'm not for picking winners and losers on the global stage. We tried that for a decade. It was a colossal failure. Except Ron Paulers wouldn't send me those kinds of notes because they actually believe in the stuff that they claim. It's not just a wedge talking point to justify complete black demonic sludge of a worldview so they don't get caught up in these sorts of easily diffused and disposed arguments. Try harder next time.
And it's actually, that's a great answer, obviously. It's actually the opposite. There's actually more freedom in Florida now. Freedom from having your kids groomed, right?
Yep. That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Alexander Rogers says, long term, I think this one is interesting. Long term, a significant portion of Con Inc. or Conservative Inc. will view Musk buying Twitter as a net loss, as they were able to appease the algorithm gods before, but now will have to compete and debate with formerly banned conservatives far to the right of them.
That is an interesting premise that I had not considered. Let me, and this is now where my own psychosis is going to impact my answer. So I'm admitting this up front, okay? I'm admitting my bias here. which means that's a handicap. And when you look at my score, okay, when we're done with the round here, okay, apply that handicap before you judge what I'm about to say. Know that this is my own psychosis. But when I heard what you suggested, Alexander, here's the thought that occurred to me. Far more likely, because it's just frankly kind of the story of my own career, is after the people you're talking about did all of the heavy lifting, paid all the punishment and the penalty for daring to go there, and didn't reap riches and 8-figure contracts and 50-state speaking fee schedules for it and New York Times bestseller list, placement. Far more likely is those people will be forgotten as the people you're talking about. Because I'm assuming by Con Inc., we're not talking about like National Review. I think that's what a lot of people think when they say that. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's applying something a little bit more specific than the Bill Kristol National Review crowd. I think he's talking about people that won't go there on COVID or won't go there on election integrity because it would violate their Facebook monetization status. Is that fair?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I think he's talking about much more popular platforms than who, because I don't think National Review's grifters. I think they're Quizlings. Those are two totally different things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think they are there. They're a false flag on purpose. They're just, they just have more of a name legacy than Bulwark does, but it's the same group of people by and large. I think what he's describing are the people that look for the low-lying fruit talking point on everything because it's easy and it's monetizable. What's far more likely is a year from now, so this sale would go through in October if everything is approved fully, is a year from now, the people you're talking about, Alexander, because they have bigger names and bigger platforms, will now fully take advantage of the loosened restrictions and make it look like they were on the side of the people that got banned the entire time, completely co-opt all of their work, claim it as their own, and act like all of those people never existed. And because they had already had huge platforms and huge followings, they will add to them all the more and completely get away with it while leaving the people you're talking about behind. Not that I have any personal experience with such a thing.
Yeah, I will. I'm with him. I'm with Steve. I will sell on that. And also, the timing of this all. It depends. The cycle, what's about to happen with this coming election only puts what Steve just said on steroids.
I sat out there on Christmas break and I watched people that I tried, who in the past have supported my work and helped. And I tried to get them to support our work on Fauci and bargain and to help, and they just completely ignored me. And then 7-8 months later over Christmas break, I watched them tweet things where they just totally gaslit people like they were on the right side of this the entire time.
Yes.
While the rest of us took all the risk for it.
Yes.
Again, not that I have any personal experience with this at all. A lot.
Next up, Jeremiah Diakogiannis says, in keeping with the spirit of the aid, Osteen et al. Will stop preaching prosperity gospel and switch to you'll own nothing and be happy within the next 2 years.
No. Sell. No.
There's no money in that.
There's no money to be made in that. There's already an audience for that. Tony Campolo, Ron Sider, that whole group. Nobody pays attention. They got nowhere. They don't have channels on Sirius XM. Tony Campolo doesn't have the pietistic vow of poverty channel on Sirius XM. Oh, no. The 50-some-odd-year-old dude with washboard abs, he gets that. No. Never happening. In fact, if anything, it'll go the other way. You got to double, triple, quadruple down on sowing a seed for such difficult times. Far more likely that will occur. Yeah.
Agreed.
Next, Truth Over Vax says the next great medical scandal will be when we find out a cure for cancer was discovered decades ago, but was covered up because the one world government doesn't want people living longer.
I don't know about the motivation here, but
Would it shock you? If
No,
there was
I was just going to say,
cancer?
I have a hard. This is something that Daniel and I are talking about privately right now because we're working on a project that we are not yet ready to announce. We can't announce yet, but we will announce here probably this summer. And one of the conversations that him and I are having privately while we work on this project is both of us kind of came into the pharma controversy world pre-COVID as if the kinds of things and scams that people like Erzin and RFK Jr. are talking about were true, given what we do for a living and how suspicious of the system and government and corporatism we already are, we know. Okay? We didn't know. Okay? We didn't know. There's anything we learned the last 25 months, we didn't know. We didn't know. Because the question we're asking ourselves a lot in our private conversations, which will not become public, it can't be possible that this is the only time they have done this. It can't be.
Yep.
You are correct.
It can't be. Just as we've talked about from a societal response to COVID, that this wasn't an outlier, but a harvest, that a generation had to be groomed in order to be subservient at this level. They wouldn't roll out a proof of concept on a mass scale with so much at stake, because if it failed here, they couldn't do it again. Meaning that they had to play some preseason games before the Super Bowl arrived. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They played some games. This metric, this paradigm, this process didn't just happen here. They had to have done this before. How often before? On everything? On a few things. And that's where you start, you look at, you're looking at the person you're talking to, and one of you drops the Yoda line, "To a very dark place this goes," right?
Yes.
Okay. So because of that, I will buy that. I at this point, I think virtually anything is possible after what I have observed over the last 25 months. I know you're a buy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Next up, Nathan says the momentum being gained right now between DeSantis, Elon Musk, and other things just means the rug will be pulled out from under us soon. Retribution will be swift. Again, that comes from Nathan.
You know what?
Even I'll sell.
I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna sell. Cynicism, even though we joke about it a lot on the show. Internalized cynicism, I believe, is sinful. If you believe that the last enemy, death, has been conquered, then internalized cynicism is anathema to that. I mean, what's more bleak than death, right? Nothing's more bleak than death. Nothing's more bleak than that. Particularly if there's no hope after death. Mm-hmm. What's bleaker than that, right? If your worldview rejects that from the outset, from its premise, then internalized cynicism is, I think, sinful. And in my view, respectfully, and I say that as someone that struggles with this and has struggled with it quite a bit the last 25 months. To me, I read this as internalized cynicism more than the learned suspicion of the guy who had the suggestion from a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because even if it's right, it doesn't even accomplish anything. Because even if it's right, it's still internalized cynicism. Still, you're robbing God of his glory here. Either God providentially acted through Elon Musk, or the outcome that you're suspecting happens, but God still gets glory for that because it's a judgment that we deserve. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Whether it's a blessing or a cursing, he knows. He is sovereign. He's proven his faithfulness. It ain't like we don't deserve a good cursing around here. It ain't like we don't deserve daddy to take the belt off and look at us and say, we got to take a few trips behind the woodshed here. Ain't like that's not deserved, right?
Right.
So don't do that. There's no need for inherent cynicism or internal cynicism, because it robs you of seeing God work in your life or in the world around you. But then even if that's not what this turns out to be, and it does turn out to be, a bait and switch, or another false idol that gets judged, then praise God for judging that false idol in our lives at the exact same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In either scenario, God deserves to be glorified. Don't let cynicism become an internal mechanism in your life. Don't do that.
Agreed.
Well said. Next, Can't Find My Way Home says, double stuffed Oreos should be called Oreos. Regular Oreos should be called Diet Oreos.
My 11-year-old self completely and totally agrees on this one. Yes.
Fair enough.
Bye.
Oreos are gluten-free now.
Are they?
Yeah.
Have you tried the gold ones yet?
Might be contributing to, my need to.
Have you tried the gold ones yet?
No.
Those are good.
Gold Oreos.
Yeah, those are good.
Next, Bruce Logan says 10 best QBs never to win a Super Bowl.
Okay.
Number 10, Joe Cap.
So we're going like Vikings and Giants. I got to see who else is on the list if we're going with playing the Joe Cap card. Let's see who else is on the list.
Number 9, John Brody.
See, the big TV is out, so I can't see the list ahead of time.
It's out?
Yeah. Brody largely played pre-Super Bowl era. Or right as the Super Bowl was dawning.
Yeah, I just assumed we were talking the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, we are talking about that era, right? People who didn't win Super Bowls during the Super Bowl era.
Okay. So.
I'd buy him before Cap, so I'll buy him. I'm not sure about Joe Cap. Okay.
Number 8, Steve McNair.
Sell. It was he was not a great quarterback.
So Steve McNair, let me see who else is on the list. I'll buy for now. Okay.
Number 7, Randall Cunningham.
I'll buy that.
And those Philly teams, those were some great teams. They just happened to be great at the same time that the Dallas Cowboys and
Vikings team,
San Francisco 49ers were great. Yeah, and the 15-1 Vikings team. Yeah, maybe the greatest team that never even made it to a Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era.
He was one of those first players who was like, the people called him a video game out there. I mean, when in his prime, what he could do.
Yep.
Number 6, Dan Fouts.
Buy,
if anything, maybe higher. You're talking about a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Number 5, Archie Manning.
Buy.
Fouts should be ahead of Archie Manning, but I would buy.
Number 4, Fran Tarkenton.
Buy.
Absolute buy. He was the quarterback of 3 of the Vikings Super Bowl losses. I believe Cap was the quarterback of the first one.
Number 3, Warren Moon.
Buy.
Tarkenton should be ahead of Moon. I mean, Tarkenton took teams to Super Bowls, won a lot of playoff games, owned virtually every career passing mark in the NFL when he retired. Tarkenton should be higher than Moon, but I'm fine with Moon being on the list, so buy.
Number 2, Jim Kelly.
Buy.
Well, you're 4 in a row. For a Hall of Famer, buy. Yeah.
Number 1, Dan Marino.
Obvious number 1. So it feels like we're missing something. Doesn't it feel like we're missing something?
No Super Bowl wins.
You look at those. Let's look at great teams in the late 60s, early 70s. But you think of a lot. Sonny Jurgensen, does he belong on the list? Would you put Sonny Jurgensen on the list over, say, Joe Cap and John Brody?
I would.
I would. Okay. So I agree with you on that. All right. So because those have been those George Allen Redskin teams. They got to a Super Bowl that year. The Dolphins were undefeated, right? Okay. Who else am I? Don Meredith. I'd probably put him on par with Brody and Cap. So I don't think that's... he's more known, frankly, for his time as a broadcaster on Monday Night Football. It feels like we're missing somebody obvious. That's a good one, Ron. Danny White. Ron, the voice in my ear, the audience never hears.
What about Tony Romo?
I think, well, you're talking about a clear Hall of Famer. Yes, I think Romo should be. Romo ahead of Brody and Cap? Absolutely, Romo should be on that list. Okay. Yes. Romo should absolutely be on the list. He's an obvious Hall of Famer with his numbers, yeah. So Romo, that's a good one. Still feels like we're maybe missing somebody. So you think of great teams that didn't make it. You get into the mid to late 80s.
Let's see. Oh, Marino's number one.
Marino, yeah, that's well. If you didn't have Marino number one, I'd fire you for putting this list on the air. Okay, so I mean that's the most obvious play of this thought every time it comes up. But I'm sure there's at least one obvious one we're missing.
It'll pop up.
It'll pop up. We can move on.
Next up, we will be fooled again, says DeSantis turning Florida into the conservative version of California is more consequential than anything any Republican could accomplish as president.
Could accomplish, sell. Has accomplished in modern times, I would buy. It's the greatest accomplishment any Republican has accomplished as president since Reagan won the Cold War.
Philip Rivers.
Oh, gosh. There's a yes. Your absolute first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And if Rivers is probably number 2 on the list behind Marino. Thank you. Good pull on that one. I knew there was somebody obvious that we were missing.
That's pure dude code, living up to expectations there. We moved on from football to like saving civilization.
But the record must be corrected.
But I must go back.
Yes.
Philip Rivers.
The record must be corrected. Because you used could instead of would, I will sell. There is a lot that you can do in the most powerful office in the land. A lot.
Yes.
Okay.
That's great.
So I will say sell because I don't agree with the use of the word could.
Yep. Agreed.
Next up, Browns fan Bill says Major League Baseball walk-up songs for certain politicians. Mitch McConnell, OJ's for the love of money.
Okay. Or Pink Floyd's Money. Maybe I'd do that.
I'm selling.
Because the register sound would be a better sound as you're walking up to the plate, right? As Pink Floyd's Money begins with the cash register sound effect and everything in there, you know? I think that would be a better sound effect. So I'll sell because I like the Pink Floyd Money version. But I like where you were going with that. I agree with the spirit of it.
Yeah, we can do worse. That's for him.
Sandy Cortez, AOC.
I was beginning to wonder, is there like a song called Antichrist or not? But anyway, go ahead. Right.
Sandy Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rod Stewart's Do You Think I'm Sexy?
I like that one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
work.
Yeah.
Governor DeSantis, Grand Funk, Walk Like a Man.
No, I think we can do better than that.
Yeah, we can do better.
I mean, I'm thinking something like How You Like Me Now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, something that has some real swagger to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Joe Biden.
Mama said knock you out.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Joe Biden, Led Zeppelin, Dazed and Confused.
That's a good one. Yeah. I'll go with that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Moving on. Next bacon is here. Steve's Blue Eyes Power Rankings. Number 5.
God, this is the greatest list ever.
Number 5, Paul Newman.
A little before my time. Okay. But I respect the poll and I like his marinara. Okay. So I guess I'll buy.
Steve's owning this list. It's all his.
No comment. See, that's a dude code. That's reverence for the dude code. A refusal to even acknowledge or comment. Yes.
Number 4, Cillian Murphy.
That's an underrated poll. That dude does have some blue eyes, no doubt. Yeah, that's a good poll. And he's a hell of an actor, too.
Number 3, Frank Sinatra.
And he's old blue eyes. That was his nickname. Absolutely. Buy.
Number 2.
Even you would buy that one, right?
You're not going to.
See, I was testing you. There you go.
Remember, our policy on this show, part of the dude code is you are not allowed to comment on what other dudes are wearing. But you are allowed to stare deep into his blue eyes and determine which one is more bluish.
Number 2,
well played.
The Who, Behind Blue Eyes.
I mean, it's the name of an actual song, so that's good. Yeah.
Is that a good song, Todd?
And it's not one of their better songs. It's one of their more famous ones, but you guys know I'm a huge Who fan, so I like it.
And number 1, Kirk Herbstreit.
With a bullet, you bet. Or a jab.
And next up, let's... this is the best movie one-liners of all time. This is from Russ Salerno.
Of all time?
And we're going to save that for the overtime.
Okay, all right.
Martin Park says, peanut butter M&Ms are better than Reese's Pieces.
Martin Parks belongs in an internment camp. Sell.
And he's also correct.
I don't know if I've had peanut butter
Peanut
M&Ms.
butter M&Ms are...
They're good.
Are light years ahead.
They're good.
Reese's Pieces is like half of that really weird like candy coating stuff that just tastes weird and half
Oh, okay. I totally misunderstood. I thought it was Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
No, Reese's Pieces.
All right, that is an acceptable take. I probably still don't agree, but now I'm not offended, so I'm okay with it. I'll buy.
The rest we will get to in overtime.
I thought it was Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I was about to unload on poor Martin Parks like he had just approached me as a masked zombie at Costco. All right? Are you kidding me? We allowed someone to defecate on Reese's Peanut Butter Cups on this program?
No, Reese's Pieces are terrible.
Okay, all right.
They only exist because of E.T.
It's true that E.T. did sell them. Yeah, but Reese's Pieces are really good.
No, they're not.
Peanut butter M&Ms are really good too.
They're light years. They're different categories.
Todd, settle the debate here. What do you think?
I'm Catholic.
Catholics don't like Reese's. Man, they're hard on you guys. Lent's over, dude. Give it up. Live a little, for goodness sakes.
Waiting for the wine.
Somebody find me some Billy Joel, Only the Good Die Young. Okay? That maybe we might run that as a poll on Twitter. Reese's Pieces or peanut butter M&Ms.
Yeah, that's a good
one. And let the Twitterati have at that one. All right, we'll come back. The weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, will be joining us. Stay tuned for that. It's our friends over at Patriot Mobile. We made the switch as a family last fall. Didn't really see too much disruption in our network coverage because pretty much everybody uses the same towers these days. We even went through the process and upgraded our phones, and they couldn't have handled customer service any better. If you want to try them today, first of all, if you make the switch and you're a veteran or first responder, let them know. They'll give you extra savings as a way of saying thank you for your service. Or they've always got extra deals going on for all of us too. Right now, you can get a free activation with the offer code Steve if you make the switch when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, patriotmobile.com/Steve, or give them a call at 972-PATRIOT. Let's bring in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. It is good to see you again, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Great to be back with you, Steve.
You fired off a tweet earlier this morning that I wanted you to kind of highlight first and foremost with our audience, linking the COVID jab with Ukraine. And I'll just get out of the way and give you the mic.
Well, Steve, you see, you know how we had these lockdowns where we had policemen stationed in Texas to make sure folks from Louisiana wouldn't cross the border. Not Mexico, because that's okay, of course. And then right afterwards, we had massive BLM protests, probably the most ubiquitous mass gatherings in American history. So it's kind of a similar dynamic here. American soldiers to this day are being kicked out of the military for not getting a shot that's outdated, has negative efficacy, spreads the vaccine, the virus, has numerous heart ailment and neurological consequences for young pilots. And some are actually being denied medical exemptions for the second shot after having gotten myocarditis from the first shot. But yet, we are giving endless Javelin missiles and other weapons to those from a country that I guarantee you have one of the lowest vaccination rates outside of Africa and countries like that, the Ukrainian military. So the Javelin missiles will work for unvaxxed Ukrainian soldiers, but not American soldiers. That is essentially the science and the political science. It's all about outcomes. The current big thing trumps the previous big thing, but only for certain people. So that's essentially where we are, Steve. It doesn't really matter. Facts don't matter. Nothing matters. Maybe we just go to humor.
Well, I've been there myself for quite a while. What the devil hates the most is to be mocked, and we do a lot of mocking and scorning of that individual on this program on a regular basis. What you're describing, and I mentioned this earlier in the program, I think one of the best articulations that it reminds me of when Eric Erickson coined the phrase, "You will be made to care," and wrote a book about it, and then spent the next few years then going proto David French and forgetting that he actually coined that phrase and wrote a book about it. Remember those days?
Yeah.
It's Christine Pushaw who works for Governor DeSantis, where she describes what you're talking about. When she says it's not hypocrisy, it is hierarchy. And that this is a inherent to this form of statism, that they don't have to things don't have to add up. They don't have to be congruent, because what they want is so morally better, is so intellectually superior, that these things can just be completely random and often perpendicular to one another, at odds with one another, and they don't feel any self-awareness check and balance on redoing the math, because it's not a bug but a feature.
Yeah, and Steve, I think why this is so important is strategically in the way we act and the way we interact with the left and what we do legally, politically. Back to your famous adage, we're not governed by the rule of law, but the rule of political will. And that's what it is. You can't play by their rules if their rule is we win, you lose, whatever gives us more control. Another great example of this turned out today, where it has nothing to do with the rule of law. If something is in and in vogue and cool, they will get it done. So Paxlovid, Pfizer's new drug, you can imagine, rush drug, new drug. We all know how those things have turned out recently. No carcinogenicity studies, no genotoxicity studies. We don't know if it's safe. And what we do know is it's mixed with a pretty heavy-duty anti-AIDS drug, which has a lot of side effects, has a tremendous amount of contraindications. So in order to give it approval, they approved it for, it has to be a moderate case of COVID, and it has to be someone who is high risk. So just today we found out that our esteemed vice president got Paxlovid for what was at least supposedly an asymptomatic case, and I don't think she has any conditions that we know of. She seems to be pretty healthy, and yet she just gets it because that's fine. Yet if you have a drug that won the Nobel Prize for being established as safe and essential for so many years, fully FDA-approved drug, you can't use that even optionally on anyone, and you'll get your license yanked for prescribing that. There's the haves and the have-nots. It's this new fascist sort of nationalism, but it's not linked to any specific race. It's more of a selection for who abides by our agenda.
Yeah, who
There's
complies.
one set of rules for that.
Correct.
And again, it cuts across all lines. So people are confused. They think fascism has to rear its head against a particular religion or group of people. But no, it's if you go along with our agenda, it doesn't matter what your personal identity is, anything goes. If not, we'll flip that upside down against you. And
therefore, you can dehumanize completely the people that do not. Like Rhode Island's legislature was debating a bill last week from its Democratic legislature of charging double state income taxes for people in the state who refuse to get jabbed with a jab that does not work and has an escalating risk profile. And back to the Kamala Harris angle that you just mentioned, here's a woman that gets special access to a drug that does not even work for an asymptomatic case of COVID, despite that she contracted, despite all of the jabs and all of that she got and all of the masks she wore. That's pretty much the perfect summation of the last 25 months, Daniel.
That's everything. I mean, that is what we're talking about. And again, that is fascism. I want to make it very clear. It's not a double standard. And I think this is what a lot of people need to understand as we try to politically and legally address this. You can't be like, well, I'm a perfect conservative, so I don't believe in anti-discrimination legislation. Well, then get rid of it. But if we're going to have it, which we do, you have to apply it equally. Because if you don't, that's used as a tool for tyranny. And that's what we're seeing. So with discrimination, it's a similar thing. You know, even if someone doesn't discriminate, they are discriminating unless you have a certain amount of, you know, the favored classes getting a certain type of job. But the Supreme Court just ruled this week that you could blatantly have a government-run magnet school in Virginia that blatantly discriminates against Asians in order to have quotas. There are 6-3 conservative court there. You could deny someone a kidney transplant. You could do whatever you want if it is under the guise of the new current thing.
And this is why a lot of times, like when they ruled for us on the jab mandates in the private sector earlier this year, it really wasn't based on any kind of real constitutional law or precedent. Otherwise, they would have equally applied it to the healthcare workers in the exact same session. It was under the understanding that the blowback from the non-compliant crowd would not be culturally sustainable. All right. And so we have to recognize that. We're not going to win a lot of arguments these days on the basis of some specific or unique or correct orthodox translation or interpretation of the Constitution, but by letting the system know the cost of them enforcing this on us is too high for them to pay, so don't even try. That's another part of how we have to change our paradigm as well. We'll get back to Daniel here in a second. Let me remind you, though, about the greatest protein bar of all time from our friends over at Built Bar. All of them covered, every single flavor in real chocolate. Some of them even covered in white chocolate, if you like that taste as well. They've got a brand new line of Built granola bars. They just launched those yesterday. So many great flavors to choose from. And it's just a fantastic product. I'm almost running out of superlatives because it's maybe the best thing I discovered over the last 25 years of suck. And it's just it's better than a lot of the candy bars out there. All of them covered in real chocolate, loaded with protein, flavor, not packed though with calories, carbs, sugars. I've had people that have bought these and used them for their diabetic children to satisfy sweet tooth and didn't have any issues with insulin boosting or anything there. So that's something you might want to ask about or check about if that's you. All right, go to built.com to get 15% off when you use my last name, Deace, right now at built.com, BUILT. Use the promo code Deace at built.com to get your Built Bars. Daniel, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is something I want to make sure I got the name right. This is something you were talking about on your show recently. I want to make sure that the listeners and viewers to our show learn about this as well. The Truth for Health Foundation. What is this?
Sure. You know, obviously everything is censored now. If you go on theirs to enter a vaccine injury, often it will take an hour, and then, you know, you're an hour into it, it will time you out and you'll lose all that info. There's a lot of funny baloney going on in there, and we know that as horrific as the numbers are, the truth be told, it's probably a factor of 20, 30, 50 times greater than what's reported there. So this group by Dr. Lee, as well as Dr. Peter McCullough, they got together and created their own simple, it's thorough enough, but a simple vaccine adverse reporting system. So people could report it, we could quantify what's out there, and then they also have a terrific network of doctors and ideas for what sort of blood labs to take to help people get cured. Because look, a lot of people in our audiences have gotten the shot. Some thought it was a good idea. Some were forced to get it. And a lot of people have systemic injury, and you will not get treatment from your doctor 99 times out of 100. So they do treatment. They also do legal work. They're helping people in the military. I thought that was a terrific, terrific idea. And frankly, it's something that we need with all these stupid health departments in these red states flush with billions of dollars of cash to use for tyranny. It should be used for a state adverse event reporting, as well as reparations to those who have to pay out of pocket, groping in the dark to try to get a cure for the clot shots.
And so truthforhealth.org is where people can go. And it's not just for registering an adverse side effect, but can you go there and use it to find out just for your own, medical knowledge and information? You can keep track of their numbers there in real time. Can you do that as well?
Well, I think over time they're going to add that as the tally goes up. I know they've been getting flooded, but it's a terrific service. It's a shame it's taken this long. And again, this is not just to score political points and go on Twitter and say, hey, it's X number of maladies were caused by this. The fact is, this is how we discover diagnostic tools and treatment. This is what's so sad. Typically, the government will put out alerts. Hey, there's this thing lurking around for kids. Go check it out. Doctors should be aware of this. It wasn't even put out things that are obvious, like tinnitus. Okay, there's 25,000 entries into theirs. And something like that is woefully underreported. People are some of them are, they can't live. I mean, you can imagine the constant ringing in the ears, and we're a year and a half behind in diagnosing all this stuff. So doctors will give them a runaround and say, I don't know what the story is. Whereas if you're up on the literature, you'd be like, well, when did you get the shots? Oh, tinnitus. It's very likely, at least we're going to look into that. And then, oh, here's how we diagnose it. Here's how we treat it. It is truly disgusting how the same people who wanted to end our lives for COVID now suddenly want to say, oh, the pandemic phase is over. Yeah, but we're now in the vaccine injury phase, and that needs to be dealt with.
Well said. Good to see you as always, my friend. Take care, all right?
God bless.
Same to you. This portion of the show brought to you by Home Title Lock. Make sure your home's title is protected for two reasons. One, it's often the only proof we have that we own it. And number two, often they're kept online, which makes them vulnerable to scammers. The crime is called home title theft. They look for what they hope are high equity homes and their titles online, and then they can make it look like, with just a little bit of forgery, they can make it look like you've sold your home to them on what's called a quitclaim deed, and then begin liquidating all of that equity. And often you don't find out until the kinds of snail mail, voicemail, and email you never want to see starts showing up. All right, make sure that doesn't happen to you, because your mortgage lender nor your homeowner's insurance can protect you. But this is what Home Title Lock tries to do. They put a virtual barrier around your home's title so that the moment they detect any nefarious tamping, they will mobilize to shut it down. Get more information, register your address, see if you're already a victim and weren't even aware when you go to HomeTitleLock.com. Once more, that's HomeTitleLock.com. Any final thoughts on today's show or the conversation we just had with Daniel?
The depth of the corruption, and it's not, corruption doesn't really do it justice here. There are many reasons, there are many levels why I have said that the American medical establishment has more in common with the mask-wearing witch doctor in the Amazon or somewhere in Africa than it does with actual medicine. Okay, because yeah, there are a lot of really hippy-dippy, eye of newt, wing of bat type of protocols that we hear from the health establishment. Stay 6 feet away, only follow the directional markers in the grocery store, those types of things. But the intrinsic evil that we are witnessing, this goes so much deeper than I think a lot of us, maybe excluding Todd, a lot of us would have ever guessed, because these are doctors. We've been told our entire lives they're on the up and up. They're there to help you. Okay, they have every incentive to help you. Maybe it's a recent change, like within the last 10 or 15 years. But those things that we've been told are either just not true or they have changed very, very rapidly.
The vaccine injury phase of this pandemic, which is what Daniel just said, that could be one of the most potent things ever said in the history of this country in terms of the potential for real change.
Just wait 2 weeks.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. We've got some bonus buy, sell, or hold coming your way if you're a Blaze TV subscriber. For the rest of you, we are back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Hall of Famer Glenn Beck here on Blaze TV. Until then, John 3:17.